Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to a day in the life of a death doula with myself, Mandy Benwaleed, and Jill Schock. So let's get started with the basics, Jill.
Okay.
What is a death doula for all of those who do not know what a death doula is?
Yeah, so I'll break this down into a couple different parts because there's a basic definition of the word doula, which is the Greek word. And it actually quite literally translates to a woman in service. So that's kind of the starting point here. There are obviously men, women, multi-gendered people in this space. So I don't know how much the women part actually applies, but a doula really is someone in service to another person, in our case, dying, who really needs help. Doulaing can take many forms. I don't think there's one way to doula. I think everybody has their style, and also you have your own relationship with your client. So there's a lot of things that go back and forth that go into what the act of doulaing actually is for your specific client. I'd also say that we can expand the word doula into the section of death work in general. You absolutely do not have to be a doula to help the dying or do any kind of death work. Some people identify with doulaship, other people don't. The way that I explain to my clients how I doula is that I'm a guide, I'm supportive, I can educate and help navigate you, give you options, and help you advocate for those. So that's my definition of a doula.
Yeah, I think that's a great definition because it's really quite expansive, but you also have a very specific role within the family and within a dying person's end of life space. So that's really great to know. But I think it's also important for everyone to understand where you're coming from and how you got to where you are today. So, why did you become a death doula? There's the whole, what's your why? What really
Yeah.
drove you down that path?
Yeah, and I'd love for our participants today to really keep this question in mind and maybe even write it down somewhere so you can reflect back on what your why is trying to get into this field. So I originally went to college to do history, more specifically public history. I used to work in museums doing archives and research and collections. So I did not set out on this path to begin with. But right at the end of my college career, I experienced a really messy death situation for the first time. And I think a lot of us in this room have that in common, where we saw where the holes were, what could have been done better, the things we wish we knew, so it could have done smoother. So that is what really sparked me to go back to school and get involved in chaplaincy, which clinical chaplains, they're the ones in the hospitals that do all the spiritual counseling and handle emergency triage, etc. But how I really got to being a doula is after working in the medical field from 2009 to 2005. Well, I worked up until 2017, but 2015 full time. It was really hard for me as a chaplain to keep my job, because a lot of times in healthcare, when there's budget cuts or anything like that, they'll just cut your hours, especially if they're using you as a per diem employee. So it's hard to secure full-time jobs as a clinical chaplain. There's like a lot of faults in the way that the medical industry gets paid. And so actually this chaplaincy is like really low on the totem pole. So working for hospice and working for healthcare systems wasn't a good fit for me. It actually ended up being safer for me to become an entrepreneur and start my own business, because then no one could fire me and I was in control of setting my own prices, things like that. So I made the full-time switch. And I worked, part-time in hospice from like 2016 to 17. And then in 17, I made the full-time switch into Death Doula LA. And I've been full-time ever since.
Amazing. And so what about, I know that part of your work was also that you didn't agree with a lot of the things happening within the funeral industry and you wanted to sort of change that a little. Um, were there certain things in particular that, once again, working within healthcare drove you to doing that as well?
Well, yeah, so chaplains do a lot of the funeral arrangements. And so making a lot of calls to different local mortuaries and funeral homes, I'm just noticing this pattern of sales essentially and how it works. And what I have learned from my colleagues, over time is like the actual laws and the actual rules really we have so many choices. We don't have to go along with the prescribed script, if you will, that we get from normative funeral home services. So I've been a really big advocate for, DIY funeraling, if you will, and just letting people know they have choices. And that's also a really big selling point for me as a doula, is I know how to save a family a lot of money just by giving them a different kind of funeral experience.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. And of course, more options to be able to even have an at-home funeral and or an
Right.
at-home wake. Exactly. Amazing.